Hi there. This is our last Amigurumi club class for 2023. And I thought it would be fun to do a little holiday gnome. So the link to this pattern is on the page where you probably found this video. It's a free pattern. I think it's free. Almost positive it was free. Christmas gnome collection. And there are three different gnomes. There's the Santa, the elf, and the reindeer. All basically constructed the same way. So I started with the Santa. I thought he was awfully cute. And there is not a lot of new stuff, but a couple of things I figured out that made it a little bit easier. So one of the things I liked about this is that it's done, I did this in a worsted weight cotton, in our coastal cotton, because we had a lot of great colors in that. And I did it on a 3mm needle, which I feel like gave me, when I stuffed it, a nice tight but still squishy texture. So this is the body. It is your basic, start at the bottom, increase rounds, make your sides, and decrease rounds, which we've done in many, many projects, and it's well written in the pattern. I wish I had put, because this isn't good, if you're going to hang it as an ornament, you don't need to do this, but I wish I'd put something heavy in the bottom. You could either put, so it would sit, it does sit, but I kind of have to mush it a little bit. So I might undo it and put some, you can either put those little polyfill beads in the bottom, or Ingrid was in class this morning and suggested like little washers. I always have little extra like nuts and bolts and things around the house. Put a little layer of stuffing first and then put that, and it would keep it weighted and would make it sit straight up. So that would be one if you're not going to hang it and you wanted it to be a little bit weighted. This Santa has he's got a little black belt on, and the pattern has you, let me find that page, has you adding the little yellow buckle, which I didn't do because his beard covers the whole thing. So I felt like it was a step I didn't need to do. But you certainly could. If you're doing a braided beard, like for the elf, you do see the buckle. So you could do that way. And so you make a body and you make arms. And I'm going to switch over to my camera. The arms should be lightly stuffed. Let me switch over here to the camera. There we go. Okay, so we've got our little body. And I did not do, because this is done in spirals, I didn't worry so much about the, making this a jogless join like I usually do, because I'm going to make this the front, and this is all going to be covered up with a nose and a beard. So I didn't particularly care. So my back will be nice and even. And then you've got two little arms. I used just kind of an off-white. And again, I didn't worry so much about where you switch colors because it's done in spirals. I didn't want to switch anything. Went very, very quick. You want to stuff, you can decide how stuffy you want it to be. And again, I would have made it a little weighted, but it does sit on its own. So maybe I'll just leave it. But if you're going to hang it as an ornament, you maybe don't want to put any weight on it. Let me pull this in. So I left nice long tails when I finished the arm, and I can use those to sew them on. And I'm going to just stuff just a little bit, because you don't want the arms to stick out straight. You want them to hang down. But you want them to have a little bit. So I'm going to use, usually you get some sort of tool in your bag of stuffing. You can also use a chopstick. or a pencil or a crochet hook. And I just want to give it a little bit of, if you do have one of these tools in your stuffing bag, I really like this if I need to pull stuffing out because it does, all the stuffing does stick to it. So sometimes if I get too much or I need it to not be so compacted, if you put this in and pull it, it'll open it up a little bit. Let's use this end. I'm just going to put a little bit more in here. And I'm doing this before I do the very last round where I decrease this down to, I want to say it's 6 stitches. 113 takes you down to 6 stitches. So that's good. So let's pull that back out. I did use a beginning of round marker just to keep me on track. Pull that all the way through. Let's get it back out. I don't have the decrease to go, so I haven't stuffed it. Boom, wrong loop. Okay. That stitch. So you end up with 9 stitches here. You start with 6, you increase to 9, and then you just make a long arm. And then I'm going to do a single. I'm going to put my marker where my first single is. And then I'm going to do a decrease. And just a little remainder. So I'm going to go underneath the front. There we go. I'm going to go underneath the front loop only of the next stitch. And then the front loop only of the next stitch. Yarn over. And pull through those 2, yarn over to finish it. And that gives you a really nice invisible decrease. And then another single. And another decrease under the front, under the front. Single. Go up the longer tail. And my last decrease. Let's see if I can make it. Actually, I'm going to take out that marker because I'm going back to the beginning. So now we finished it. Then they want you to just kind of fold it in half because you're going to sew it on. You're going to fold it in half and just crochet or slip stitch through the half. I'm just going to do a slip stitch and pull that. So now I can adhere. Let me zoom back out. I can put them on. Since I want them to stand up, I don't want the arms to hang down lower than the body. So that's good. And I might stitch it so they they don't stick out too much. May have put a hair too much stuffing in there, but that's easy enough to stitch. And then what's the other thing I think is great about this pattern is then you make a hat, and she gives you an option to make a long pointy hat like this or a shorter hat, depending on what you want to do. You can do this for any theme. You could do this for Halloween and make this a witch's hat. You could do it for Thanksgiving and make it like a cornucopia type thing. I mean, it's and Valentine, you could do anything you wanted here. But what's nice is that the hat, it flares down here because it's going to kind of cover. You don't have to do eyes on this guy. I am going to put some stuffing in the hat here in a minute. And then the arms are going to be up in here as well. And then I'm going to be making a nose, and I want to show you how I did the beard, because I did learn a little bit about doing the beard. So let's do the nose real quick. I'm just using that same kind of flesh colored or whatever color you want to do. Starts with a magic ring. This would be cute if you're doing the reindeer. You could make it a red nose and make it Rudolph, which would be fun. And then we're going to do 6 singles into the magic ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 1. Tighten up my ring. And then because this is going to be so tight and I want to be able to tighten my magic ring, I'm going to take the end and pull it to the so that it's out on the right side. Because once I make this next round, I'm not going to be able to really pull it and then tie it off. I'd rather have it coming out on the right side, tighten it up, and then push the end back in. So I pulled it to the right side, which normally I would leave it on the inside. So let's tighten that up. And then we're going to do increase every stitch to 12 stitches. Let's do first one. Mark the stitch. Another one right in there. Doing the next. Next. The body and the hat are done by how we've done a lot of the other increasing, where you do 1 single and then 1 increase. So it's a slower rate of increasing to get the shaping correct. This one's a quick one. 2, 2, and then 3 singles in the next 3 singles in the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and then an increase. So we're going to go to 15 stitches. So 1 first. 2, 3, increasing the next. So that's stitch 4 and stitch 5. And 3 more. 6, 7, and 8. And then increase, and there's stitch 9 and 10. 9 and 10. 11, 12, 13, and then 14 and 15 next. 14, 15. And then she talks about fastening off, and she does this with, I think, each part, fastening off with an invisible, oh, and do one round, oh, I shouldn't have cut the yarn, one round all the way around in singles. Get ahead of myself. So not gonna have no, it's just such. So if you need to switch yarn, just do your last yarn over with your new yarn. I mean, that's the how you would do if you're changing colors. It also works for when you are joining a new ball, or you made the mistake and cut your yarn too soon, like I just did. I'm just doing singles around, and then I'll go back and I will tie those two together. I don't mind knots because it's all going to be on the inside and stuffed. If it was something that I was going to see both sides, something I was wearing, I would weave away, but that's the joy of some of this. You can just tie them out. I'm not worried about it. And one more. Okay. And then she talks about an invisible fasten off, which she gives you a very nice diagram. So we're going to use you can use a darning needle or you can use your hook. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I know we've done this before. We'll do it again. So I'm going to leave a tail. Here's all of my right side. Now I can pull my center very tight. And here's how I'm going to do an invisible fasten off. You can either thread this on a darning needle or use your hook. So I'm going to pull my end through, and then I'm going to go into the next stitch over from the back to the front, pull the yarn through, and then I want that yarn to go through the center of that last stitch we made. So I'm going to come up and the behind and grab my yarn and pull it that way, so that when I tighten everything up, you have a nice invisible, it just looks like goes right into the next stitch. Okay. Right, so I've tightened my center. Pull it to the back. And then, so what does she say about the nose? Let me take those two ends I joined and tie them off. She doesn't give every description with this pattern, and you know exactly what to do, but it's pretty self-explanatory. You can decide to stuff or not, depending on the yarn you're using and how thick it is. I don't want my center to come undone. So I'm going to end up tying it with one of these. I want my magic ring to come undone since it says front nose. So I'm just going to burn that. I feel like I can trim all of those. They've all been tied off. And you don't want to cut them too short because the ends might pop out. I'd rather cut them a little on the longer side and kind of stuff them in. If they're really short, you don't have any options on what to do with them. If they're a little longer, then you can play with it a little. So here we've got, just kind of shaping it. And it's pretty stiff. I might just put a smidge of stuff in here. That for his nose. And then I think I will, just going to take a darning needle here. And just kind of hold it into place in case I want to move it. Because I want to show you how I did the beard. Because the beard kind of comes around the nose. So, and I didn't make a full one ahead of time. So I'm just going to put just a couple of stitches just to kind of hold it in place here. Something that's easy to pull out. Make sure this is where I want it. You could use stitch markers too, but I kind of got his nose roughly where I want it. I can do, let me show you how to do that invisible finishing with a darning needle. So finish your last stitch, and take the end and pull it through the loop. And I'm going to pull it, but I want it to be the same size as the rest of the stitches. So don't pull it tight. Let's see. Ooh, too much. Wait, let's tune that down. There we go. Okay, so roughly the same size. That's good. Turn it down in the middle. I'm going to go into the next stitch, from front to the back. And then I'm going to go down into the center of that last stitch I made. And I'm going to go behind some of the stitches there. So I try not to pull anything tight until I'm happy with. All right, that's good. And if I really wanted to, I could come and make a little extra stitch here to kind of blend my not so invisible join there. But you don't have to. I'm just going to use that as a little weaving away. Okay. All right, so that's going to be my back of my hat. So what particularly? Let's just tie these off. And I'm just, like I said, I don't want to trim them too short because I don't want them popping out because then you don't have any options. Here was the top of my, where I started with my magic ring. And I got it nice and tight now. I'll go back through the center. Into the hat. I'm going to distort anything. There we go. And then I'm just going to tie it with one of these other ends so it doesn't come loose. You could also just turn this inside out a little and leave it away a little. Then I'm going to put a little stuffing in. Well, side. Stuff to shape it a little. Use the end. You do want that to have a little bit of structure. So. But it's going to come down pretty far onto our body here. So I don't want to have stuffing all the way to the top because it's going to hit the it's going to hit the head here. So I'll show you the inside. So I'm going to fill it up, leaving several rows of the red. And then when I'm ready, I can pull this down. You don't see his eyes. Very rarely do you see gnome eyes. His hat usually covers them. So here we are with that. Let me show you the beard. She gives a little diagram of how to do the beard. But very little instruction other than a diagram. So I played with this morning and figured out the best way was to, whichever color you're doing your beard in, cut a length of whatever color you're doing. And then I used some Scotch tape. Have here just a second. Oh, perfect. It just made it easier. to tape it down, not tight, but to tape it down on either end. I'm going to show you the one I was working on here. So I'm going to tape this little guy down. That end. And I'm leaving this loose so that I can reach underneath it. And I decided how long I wanted. I thought I would want his beard to be with the option to trim it. So I'm going to be trimming it. And I cut several lengths that I could then fold in half. I'm going to show you one at a time, which is how I started, which is what our picture said. And then I thought, well, that's silly. Why don't I just do more than one at a time? Because it would be a little fuller. So you could do one at a time, two at a time, three at a time. I'm going to do three. And it would look a little bit fuller that way. And so here's 3 strands. And I'm just folding them in half, putting the loop underneath what I've taped. The taping helped because then this didn't move around so much. And I could pull it through and tighten it up and then slide them next to each other. So I found that the 3 strands together, here I started just single and then I switched. I'll just push these a little closer together. Because then what's going to happen, pull that out from the tape, then I can decide if I want to add more or not. You want to make it fuller. You could also use a very fuzzy yarn, but it gets kind of done up. Let me zoom in on the pattern here so you can see. So here you tie them all on, and then they come around his nose, okay? So it says sew the beard, and it tells you what rows to sew the beard between rounds 18 and 21, and then sew the nose on top of the beard between 18 and 21. And then sew the arms 7 stitches apart from the nose. So those are some guidelines. You can certainly make yours whatever you want. So let's do the way she said. I'm taking the nose off first up. Okay. So she says between rows 18 and 21. So let's zoom out and I'll show you how to paint rows if you don't remember. All right, so here's round 1. Oops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and let's make sure that that was right, that this one. Yep, 14 and 15 were black. 16, 17, 18. So 18 through, let's put a marker right there for 18. $19, $20, $21. So let's smush these all together as close as I can get them. So let's do a little bit off. So here's how it's gonna, so it kind of comes up over his nose and then the nose goes on top over that hole. So yeah, looks pretty good. Could also use a different, like a fuzzier yarn. I thought maybe an acrylic that would maybe unravel, although this cotton will unravel. I could play with that a little bit too to give them a little more dimension. Since the nose is going to cover this, I'm not going to be super careful with my stitches. Okay. And I'm coming up in between. I want to catch some of those loops of the beard. I'm not just going between the strings, I'm going between where it got looped. And both sides of it. And since I'm using all the same color, that makes it easier. String that I was using. Okay. That's kind of on there now. So now I think I can use my nose to kind of secure it down a little bit. Little stuff in there. I'm going to go all the way to the other side first, because this would be hard to pin in place. I'm going through the whole kind of body and then coming back here. Mm-hmm. This is very fudgeable. Let me just get a few running stitches in so you can see. And I can kind of shape the nose here at the same time and make sure I pull it in. Let's say when you make your nose, leave a longer tail. This is okay. It's kind of nice to finish our Amigurumi club with a project that isn't quite so precise. It's pretty fun. I'm gonna catch the edge of that beard. So I'm kind of going underneath and catching those rows of where we tied the beard on. So I have a little more work to do tying off his nose ends, but I like that. So then once he's all said and done, I'll trim this here. But I like the way that hangs. I think that's adorable. And then arms, 7 stitches apart from the nose. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So roughly right there. Let's do. Stuck in this one. Single those together or slip stitch them together. Okay. Yeah. And then let's that cover up. I'll stitch the arms. And then I'm going to stitch, I stuffed his hat. Then I'll stitch the hat on. Stop sharing for just a second. You have got, we need to cut his nose hairs. Got an adorable little Santa gnome. I think that's so cute. And then you can decide if you're going to be hanging him, he's going to be an ornament. Maybe you want the beard to be longer. I'm going to want mine to sit. So I want it long, but I do want him to sit. So I think I will. Do a little trimming. Cut that. Still need to sew his nose on better so those lines up out of the way. And there are different colors that I'm mixing this in. So you can get a nice scrape, you can get a curved edge. I want to finish them all off before I completely trim it. And then I might, once I know his beard is secure, I might try kind of untwisting some of the yarn, or using like a little sweater comb or something that you would use to depill something, would help pull some of that out. And you would get a really cute, soft, fluffy. But also, if you really wanted it full, you could stitch some more on top if you wanted it really full. But that's a gnome, the Santa gnome. The variations are, that's the back. You can make, with this particular pattern, which I thought was a great basic pattern, you can do the elf gnome. The difference being there is that you divide the beard once you put it on, and you make a little braid, and you add little elf ears to his hat. So that's the elf gnome. And the reindeer gnome actually has the reindeer eyes and ears up here, but you could make his nose red, I thought, and maybe put little eyes down here if you wanted to, or avoid the eyes altogether, but the rest is all the same. But you can see how she untwisted the yarn for the beard to make it really soft and fluffy, which I really liked. So I hope you have enjoyed Amigurumi Club. It's been a lot of fun. We're gonna be doing some different crochet projects in 2024. I'll still be doing some amigurumi. It'll be coming up, but I don't know that it's going to be a monthly anymore. But I hope you've enjoyed it. I have certainly enjoyed it and learned a lot. And I hope to see you soon. Talk to you soon. Bye.